Bubblegum Paper, and I am back with my 25 cards in 25 days holiday card series. I just wanted to say thank you all so much for the sweet comments on card number 1, and I am here today with card number 2. I'm featuring products from Lawn Fawn in today's card, and here is a close-up of what that card looks like. So let's get started. The products I'm using in today's card are the Lawn Fawn Home for the Holiday stamps, the large and small cross-stitch squares, and the stitched borders. I'm stamping all of the images first, and I'm actually stamping them twice because the first impression is usually kind of light. This is a new stamp set. So unlike most cases, the second impression when it comes to stamps is better than the first impression. So don't worry about that first impression. Same thing with the little tree. This one I'm stamping in green ink. It's the Lucky color from Simon Says Stamp. And then I'm going to go in and do my Copic coloring. This is pretty easy coloring, so I'm not using too many colors. I'm just going to color the car red because when we were kids, we had this bright red station wagon, and we called it the Big Red, kind of like the chewing gum. You know me and gum, love the gum. So we had this giant red station wagon, and I would sit in the way back and have all of my toys surrounding me as we traveled to my aunt's house for the holidays. So I'm actually going to go ahead and set this to some music, and I will be back at the end. Once the images are all colored, I'm using the coordinating dies, and I'm just holding them in place using some washi tape. And I'm going to carefully line these up to make sure they're centered within the dies, and I'll run those through my die cut machine. So I just noticed as I'm running this through my die cut machine that I actually colored the presents from the first impression, not the second impression of those presents. But I guess you can't really tell the difference. So I'm using the cross-stitched borders, or the cross-stitched squares, and I'm running those through the die cut machine as well to create this cross-stitch frame. And then I'm also using a little piece of the white. I'm using that same larger square, and I'm cutting out the background. And then I'm going to cut half of a square, or 3/4 of a square, just because I need the bottom of it to make my little snowy hill. And I'm using the cross-stitched border die that matches the cross-stitched squares, cutting that on the die cut machine, and then trimming it off with my paper trimmer. Now here I'm using some of that Let's Bouquet in the Snow red striped paper from Lawn Fawn as well. And I decided to cut a frame using the larger and the largest and the second largest cross-stitch squares because I wanted a slightly thinner border. And I'll show you why I did this, because I couldn't decide between the thicker border or the thinner border, and I just wanted to have them both available. Next, I'm taking some Post-it tape. Now this is like a Post-it note, only in the form of a tape dispenser. And I'm masking off some of the area where that snowy hill is going to go. This gives me a good sense of where I should be ink blending. So I'm using a combination of cracked pistachio and tumbled glass distress inks. And I want the ink to be more saturated on the bottom where that Post-it note tape is. I flipped it around because for some reason, as a lefty, I ink blend better from left to right and top to bottom versus the other way around. So But after I'm done ink blending, I will flip this around, and where most of the saturation is, that's going to be the bottom of the sky. And then I'm just going to have it kind of fade to white over on the top. And I wasn't sure how this blue and green was going to work out in terms of a sky color, but in the end I kind of liked it. So I'm just going to go ahead and ink blend away. Next, I'm going to remove the Post-it note tape, and it's okay that the ink went on the bottom as well, because that snowy mound will cover it. And then I'm taking some water. This is just the water from a mini mister, and I'm sprinkling it on top of that distress ink. And then I'm using a paper towel and blotting that away. And what shows up is kind of like a little snowy background. If you can see in the light, it's a little splotchy, so it looks like snow. Next, I'm taking my powder tool and I'm just rubbing that over the white snow mound, and I'm using Versamark ink to stamp the sentiment. The sentiment says Season's Greetings. And I'm just going to stamp that down and then use my Ranger Liquid Platinum embossing powder, sprinkle that on top of the sentiment, and I'll shake that off. And then I'll just use my heat tool to set the embossing powder so that it's all shiny and melts. So now I'm ready to assemble the card. I'm just putting all the layers in place so I can make sure I know where everything needs to go, and I'm trying to debate where to put those presents. In the end, I decided it would be fun for the card to drag the presents along. And then I'm putting a little heart next to Season's Greetings just because the stamp set had a heart in it, and I thought that would be cute. So I'm using my typical adhesive tape runner, and I'm just running that over the snow mound. And then I'll be using some foam adhesive to prop up the car. And I love how the wheels just kind of sit on top of that cross stitch border, so it's like the car is driving up the cross stitches. And then I'm taking some baker's twine. This is just a piece of scrap baker's twine I have. It's red and green. It's not red and green. Oh, I do have a red and green one, but I didn't use that. Oh well. Anyways, I used the green and white striped one, which you can barely tell, but this way the presents are being kind of towed. And I'm gluing those in place with my foam adhesive. And then I'll take that same foam adhesive and place it on the back of the tree. I actually used 2 layers of it for the tree so that the tree can kind of hang over the car. And then the last thing I'm doing is taking more foam adhesive. By the end of this card series, you guys will all realize how much I love this foam adhesive. I am running low, but I think I have another roll stashed away somewhere. So I cut this foam adhesive in thirds lengthwise. That way it would be super skinny, and I just put it along the edges of the frame, and I'm carefully applying that to the front of the card. Next, I'm taking a 4.5 by 9 sheet of paper, and I'm scoring it at the 4.5 inch mark to make a 4.5 inch square. And I'm just placing the front of the card down on the card base so that it's still a top folding card, but it's a 4.5 inch square. I'm adding some Wink of Stella to the colored images just to add a little bit of sparkle, and that is my finished card. Here are a couple close-ups of the finished card. I made today's card a little easier because I had to work earlier today, and then I rushed home and made this card, filmed it, and edited the video so I could post it in time for day number 2. Thanks so much for watching. If you're interested in more cards from this series, please consider subscribing to my channel. You can follow me on social media at Bubblegum Paper or visit my blog at bubblegumpaper.com for more project ideas. Here are links to 2 other videos. The first link is the card I made for day number 1 of the card series, and the second link is a compilation of all the cards I made last year. Thanks for watching, and catch you next time. Bye!